So, welcome everyone to the October Your Market Producer of the Month interview with the wonderful SJ from Second Mouse Cheese Co. So SJ, could you please tell us a little bit about yourself, what drew you to cheese making, and how Second Mouse Cheese Co. got started?
Yeah, so cheese making was a complete accident for me. I got a one-day learn how to make cheese at home course as a birthday present.
Wow.
And I went and I attended that, and I just fell down a rabbit hole. I started making cheese at home and like buying books and watching YouTube videos and just started doing it. And I was looking for more courses, and that's when I found the Artisan Cheesemakers Academy down in South Australia.
Mm-hmm.
And I made the decision to spend a year traveling up and down to Adelaide and studying professional cheesemaking. And I was about halfway through that when I met Kai Waltman, who was the founder of Second Mouse Cheese. And it was, at a party, we had a few wines, and I was like, oh, I love your cheese. I'm making cheese. Told him my whole thing. And after a while, he offered me a couple of days a week work. So I quit my job doing engineering work, and started working for him. And then I was driving wine tours, and I got a really good insight into the whole situation. Yeah. And then a few years later, the opportunity came up to purchase Second Mouse, and I didn't really think it through without much business practice and background, or without any business background. I just sort of dived in, and I've been swimming like crazy for the last 7 years.
That's brilliant. Yeah. That's really cool. So it was that you enjoyed doing it, and it just kind of kept on growing and growing and taking that next step and that next step and that next step.
Yeah.
Until eventually you're now here.
Yeah, literally followed a rabbit and wound up here.
That's brilliant. I have no idea about cheese making. I'm sure a lot of people at home don't know very much about cheese making. Can you run us through your cheese making process? What maybe a week looks like for you, or what happens behind the scenes?
Yeah, so cheese making is a really fascinating process, but it's actually really simple. So, you take milk, you heat it up to body temperature, you add some bacterial cultures in, that begins your fermentation. Those bacterial cultures go through like Pac-Man, and they eat the lactose, and they turn it into lactic acid, and that's where your flavor profile comes from. Then you make the milk solid. You add rennetin, which is an enzyme. It creates the solid sort of curd. Let that harden. You cut the curd, and then the whey starts to come out. So, that's where we're extracting the liquid, so we kind of end up with the solid form of cheese. You work the curd a little bit to do that, and then you take it out of the whey. You stick it in a hoop, make the shape, turn it over a few times, add some salt, leave it somewhere to, finish its ferment, and that's it.
Wow.
Cheese making is actually a really simple process, and those steps are pretty much ubiquitous across the board.
Yeah.
But it is all the different nuances in how you do it, and the process by which you do those steps that gives you the whole world of cheese. But essentially all cheeses go through roughly the same process.
That's really interesting. Yeah. That's really interesting. So it's about it really comes down to the artist, the maker, that actually determines the quality and all sort of.
Yeah, absolutely. Just your recipe and how you're treating it, what temperatures you're using, what bacterial cultures, how long you do stuff, what you add. Yeah, so lots and lots of nuance and detail, but essentially the principles are all the same.
That's really interesting. So with that, I assume then there's obviously different types of milk that you can make cheeses from, but is it that quality of milk as well?
Oh, 100%. You can't make any good quality product if your raw ingredients are no good. And we're using cow's milk only, and we're lucky to have the Little Big Dairy in this region. So they're a wonderful, family-owned, independent dairy. They're managing their herd and their animal welfare really well. Great nutrition for the cows, gives great milk, and because they are a single source, there isn't the standardization processes that happen in the biggest sort of dairies, where you're getting a sort of homogenized but really sort of lacking in character products. So we
Right.
do see some seasonal variation throughout the year. It's not enormous because of the great techniques that they have for managing their animals, but it's good, and it's one of those things that connects us with what we do.
Yeah.
And yes, we see those seasonal variations, and those shine through in the product as well.
That's really interesting. That's absolutely fascinating. That variation is so cool.
Yeah.
So then, with that, what do you see as the difference then between what you at Second Mouse create using amazing local milk compared to what you can get in a supermarket that might be more standardized?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, seasonal variation is a really big part of that. And we do see those little differences that happen throughout the year. And we are also not interfering in the cheese making process. So while we do take our various sort of scientific measurements throughout the process to make sure that we are seeing the development we want, we really don't interfere with the process. We're much more driven by, you could almost say, the practice of repeating things and having consistency in how we do things. And we're letting those seasonal variations shine through, which is why we're only making certain cheeses at certain times of the year. And just that sort of attention to detail, but the understanding that this is very much a living thing and it continues to evolve. Like,
Right.
When the brie is first made, it's chalky on the center. And like as time goes on, it gets softer and then the flavors get bigger. So if anybody out there has purchased Frida, our wonderful wash rind, you'll know that it can vary from like a really pleasant sort of like full-bodied flavor to something that is extremely pungent and stinky, and that is the nature of that living product that we have.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. So then, with that working almost with the cheese and letting it express itself, is that then that big benefit that you get with it being local as well? That it is going to be seasonal. It is going to be it's going to have different taste advantages and different shelf life advantages as well.
Well, our shelf life for some of our products is probably a little shorter than you will find in some of your supermarket products.
Yeah.
But I think you're going to get a cheese that has a lot more characteristics and personality of its own. And as you know, Will, a lot of our products have their own names, and we choose to do this, and it's a great tradition started by the founder, and that one that I've wanted to continue, of giving these cheeses these names because they do almost have their own personality. So I think you're going to find a lot more personality in the cheeses, even if that sometimes means they're a little temperamental.
That's brilliant. And obviously there's that personality, but the different cheeses have won a huge number of awards over the years. Can you run us through sort of probably the cheese you're most proud of, and what it is that you like about it so much?
Look, I think it would have to be our Ruby Blue. It is probably the product that we are best known for at Second Mouse Cheese, and it's an iconic style of blue. It really is this blue that straddles both hemispheres of like satisfies a blue lover but can really convert the blue skeptic. The fashion for those really pungent, like strong styles of blue has dropped away in the Australian food scene a bit at the moment, and we are seeing a lot more approachable styles of blue that do have that wonderful umami richness, but it doesn't have the harshness that can put people off a blue, like bitterness and ammonia. There's definitely a huge demand for that. I'm constantly struggling to make enough. It's the product that I sell out of first at every event that we do. It's the one that people drag their friends over to us to say, like, you've got to try the blue. So, I think, while you're not supposed to play favorites with your babies, I think the Ruby Blue is really... it's really an iconic product.
Yeah, if people could only try one, you'd say try that.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, that's so interesting. That so it's approachable, but it's also going to bring in a lot of that character that real blue lovers are going to absolutely be craving.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think it's a flavor that plays nicely with other flavors as well. Okay. Like, if you were going for, the Stiltons or the Gorgonzola picantes, not that they're not wonderful, but sometimes those can kind of suck the air out of a room, like as far as your palate's concerned. There isn't sort of they don't pair very well with wines necessarily, or they might overshadow anything else that you are serving with that. Whereas I think the ruby blue plays nice with other flavors.
Ah, okay. Well, talking about playing nice and pairing, could you run us through your different cheeses and how you think would be best to enjoy them for someone that, say, would get your Frida and doesn't really know what to do with a wash rind?
Okay, fair enough. The first thing I'd like to say, I'm going to say this directly to the audience. There is no wrong way to enjoy a product that you love. Put it in your mouth and enjoy it however that looks for you. That's really important. There's not a proper way to do it, but I would definitely suggest with a product like the Frida, which is that big, strong cheese, give it things that sort of are pairing well with it. And we're lucky here in Orange. We've got like such a great selection of, beverages and that sort of stuff. So I definitely love a, cool climate, sort of savory charactered Pinot Noir with the Frida. And definitely like something that has a little bit of an acidic sort of thing with it, like a lovely green apple.
Yeah.
That brings out some gorgeous flavor combinations. She's a tricky one because she can demand a lot of attention. But the other thing is, and it's often overlooked when we talk about like food matchings, often people sort of like go, oh, well, wine and cheese are obvious bedfellows. But don't forget about beers. A fabulous like, red IPA with that Frida, that's those yeasty characteristics, those are fantastic.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, there's lots of potential to play with other beverages out there as well.
Okay, so bringing in some of that Badlands beer or
absolutely,
like that.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh, that's
the
really
Jackson
cool.
and the Frida.
Ah, well, there you go. You heard it here. And then what about something like you've obviously got your Maurice, your the second mouse. People might think of it as Swiss cheese.
Yes, that's the Henri.
Yep. Oh, sorry, the Henri. That's right. The Maurice is the farmhouse style.
Yes.
Yep. Your double cream brie, a fan favorite.
Yep.
And your ruby blue, among others.
Yep.
With your ruby blue, what would you pair that with? What would you?
Yeah, you've got a lot of options. So people traditionally do recommend like dessert wines with blues because that often counteracts those harsh flavors that we were talking about. And you will find some beautiful dessert wines out here as well. But I think because it lacks those harsh characteristics, it can actually pair very well with wines that are showing like a lovely red fruit character.
Oh, okay.
So, a Shiraz or even a Cabernet Franc can go really well. Anything that's got like a bright red fruit sort of richness there. And like red wine and cheese can be hard to pair together and blue cheese and red wine can be really tricky. Whereas something like the Henry, that is sweet and it's nutty. And again, like, we want to match influences there. So any kind of Alsatian styles of wine are wonderful with the Henry. So, Rieslings, Gewürztraminers, Fumé Blancs. There's lots of great stuff there.
Brilliant.
And then double cream brie, that one is so easy. Orange Chardonnay is the absolute best, or a Blanc de Blanc, sparkling wine with fine bubble. You really can't go wrong.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
We've been talking a lot about wines, and we've got Orange Wine Week coming up in the second month of October. What is Second Mouse Cheese up to for Wine Week?
We are going to be at the Wine Festival night markets. We're going to be serving up some gorgeous little cheese charcuterie cups, which is wonderful for walking around and snacking and chatting to people.
Yeah.
And we will be supplying cheese all over the region for that event.
Yeah.
We're not hosting any events ourselves, but you will find our stuff all over Orange, and you will be able to certainly source it if you're visiting through YourMarket. And of course, we will have a special release just in time for that. Our much anticipated spring release, the Fleur d'Orange, is back. So it's a beautiful, light little soft curd cheese that's sort of, lactically ripened. It's got some beautiful wrinkles. We've got some edible flowers over the top of it, which just make it an absolute visual feast. It's light, it's delicate. It's very much intended for, you know, that first day coming out of winter when it's warm enough to sit outside in the sun, you know, with your shoes and socks off and, you know, a glass of rosé when you feel like spring is really coming. So that's releasing just in time for the Orange Wine Festival, which is great.
I can't wait. I had that last year and it was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, SJ.
My pleasure.
Thank you very much for being our October Producer of the Month. If you'd like to find SJ, obviously, as she's just said, you can find her all over Wine Week. And if you're trying any cheese on any charcuterie boards, it's more than likely SJ's. So find out what it is and then go and order. And you can find her at YourMarket as well, delivering all of SJ's amazing cheeses to your door Wednesday and Fridays. All right. Thank you very much.
Great. Thanks, Will.
Thank you.